Northwest Missouri State University has won 3 UCA National Cheerleading Championship titles in the last 4 years. A champion is dedicated, passionate, and driven to do whatever it takes to win. They must sacrifice their body, emotionally and physically, to do so. This team must work together to reach the goal of winning their 3rd consecutive championship. This is what it takes. Meet Katie Cole, a grad student at Northwest who is obtaining her Master's of Business Administration. She has been on the Bearcat cheerleading squad since 2010.
The difference between when I first transferred here and now would be the amount of veterans on the team. And when I first came in, I felt like there were only a few new people. So there were 1 or 2 or 3 of us that were new even to the team, not just the nationals mat. And so transferring throughout the process, like each year we've added about 2 people new onto the nationals mat. And I would say this year it's a little bit different because we have so many new people and we only actually have like around 6 returning people that are actually going to be taking the floor with us down in Orlando. And so that's a huge difference. Even in the practice area, there's a lot of people this year that are getting used to the way practices are run, or they've transferred in from different programs, and so they have to get used to the way that our coach runs things, the way that our practices are run. And a difference just between us and a lot of other programs around the country is we start so early. So basically once we get back to school in the fall, we start nationals right there. We start working on what our big sequence will be on the floor. We start working, we learn our routine a lot earlier than some of the people that are in our division. And so I think that people aren't ready for that when they come in. We have a lot of tough practices early on in the season, and being on the nationals team requires a ton of time commitment. And something that I remember when I first came into this program was they told me, people were asking in our green and white day if they could be part of a sorority. And that was one of the things I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. Maybe I would want to be part of that. And the first thing they said was, you won't have time if you're on nationals mat. You just really have no time. We practice every single day. Our practices are Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday for 3 hours. And then we're expected to come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays and work with our different partners that are in the routine. And so that requires obviously a lot of time commitment. It's every single day. Sometimes we'll have Saturdays off, but most of the time we have a football game. Practices during the year, basically for national season, we start off running basically some of just the regular stunts. So there'll be one section where we're doing just one set of stunts, or we'll go to one section of the routine and do that. And then as we progress further through the season and more into kind of the November area where we are right now, we more move into kind of halves of the routine. So we'll do the first half all the way through. We'll start and we'll be certain things that we're working on. We'll run through the entire first half. We'll have a minute off, and then we'll do the entire second half. So it's a little bit of a process where it transfers from doing individual skills into running entire parts and sections of the routine. A lot of the practices are revolved around the team working as a whole and putting bits and pieces together so that we are ready to run the routine when we get to Orlando. Fall semester finals, we'll start moving into our 2-a-day process. And while some people have kind of been through that before, they have no idea what is coming when we actually get to those practices. So they may think that things are hard earlier in the season, but they have no idea until we actually get into those 2-a-day practices. And we come in from 11 to 2, and so that's our 1 3-hour practice. And then we'll get a little bit of time off in the afternoon where people generally go home. They'll shower, they'll eat, they'll rest, they'll try and be icing any type of injuries or just preparing or even sleeping before that next practice. And then we'll run again from 5 to 8. And that, I would say those practices are really grueling. And we just, it's over and over and over and over and over. And if there was a definition of insanity, just doing something over and over and over, I would definitely compare that to our nationals practice process. It's just a huge kind of frustrating time. And then, like I said, we just get down to nationals and everything kind of comes together. And so we're all through these 2-a-day practices, and you're so frustrated and you just don't think that it can get any worse. And we get down to Florida and Orlando, and we just see everything that we've been dropping and missing, or dropping in performances, or things that have never hit the entire season, and you don't understand why they've never hit. all of a sudden they're hitting and you're like, where was that for the last 2 months? Like, I don't understand why that wouldn't hit. And it's so stressful. And I don't think a lot of people realize how much actually goes into a process for nationals when we only are on the floor for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and how many hours and time and practice and dedication it takes to be able to get through all of those 2-a-day practices to make it to nationals. And now that they've moved nationals back a week, which happened 2 years ago, we have even more practices. So we have another week of 2-a-day practices, which is, from when I first started here to now, is a huge difference, because one, we get more time, but then also that's about 16 extra practices that we would have never had. C-A-T-S, go Cats! The nationals process completely takes an emotional toll on a lot of people, and specifically in 2011, our team didn't have a real specific goal going down to Florida. And I think that that's what hurt us the most, and why we ended up in third, and we were so heartbroken when we left because we didn't come out in first after they had just won the year before. And a lot of it, just looking back, even though we were the only team that didn't drop, I felt like we deserved that third place because we as a team didn't come together and have that common goal and common understanding and common work ethic, and have one thing that we were all striving for. When you're working on a team sport, that if you have one person that's not in, we're all not in. In 2012, everyone was pushing for the same thing. Everyone wanted to win so bad because of that 2011 placing, that there was absolutely nothing that was going to stand in the way from us doing those skills. So whether we were picking ourselves up off the floor because we were so tired out of practice, and someone's like, let's do 5 more pull-ups, and everyone's like, heck yes, let's do it. And there was not one person ever that was, oh, I really can't do anymore. I can't make it. I can't do this. I can't do that. Can't was never in our vocabulary in 2012. Last year, I can kind of say the same thing, where we didn't put the best routine on the floor, but we had that same drive. Everyone wanted to be that back-to-back team. And I remember we had things in our routine last year that we thought there was never in a million years we were going to hit on that floor. And even when we took the mat and we were on the mat in our last stunt, I got to it and I said, even in my head, okay, who's going to drop this time? Because we had not hit once before we went down there. And that drive and determination and everyone wanting to have that back-to-back title somehow made it so emotionally, maybe not physically, but emotionally, we were able to hit that stunt on the mat all together for the first time we had ever done it when we took that floor. And I think that that's something that comes from a team drive, a team want, a team need. You only get that one chance, that one 2 minutes and 30 seconds on the floor, and you have to leave it all on the floor. There's nothing else that you can do. And as hard as it is, when we're tired and you're sweating or your back hurts or your neck hurts or anything else hurts, that you find a way to want to get yourself to do those 5 extra reps, because in the end, when you walk off that mat, emotionally, you don't want to think and look back on what you did during the season and say, wow, I wish I would have taken those 2 extra reps where I laid on the floor and said I couldn't. Or I wish I would have went into the gym on those Tuesdays and Thursdays when everyone was telling me I needed to get in there. And you want to walk off that mat and say, I'm glad I did that. I'm glad we did those 10 extra reps. I'm glad I put in the extra time, because now it's worth it.